for watching P356 vlog. My name is Sarah and it's my goal to show who God is and that He is still at work in our lives today. It is never too late to be an influencer for Jesus. Check out more at p356blog.com. This week we're going through Proverbs chapter 13, and it is such a good one filled with so many wisdom nuggets, but I'm going to focus on just a couple of main ideas. This week I'm focusing on what does your heart desire? There are so many verses in Proverbs chapter 13 dealing with our heart's desire, and I want you to be listening for them as I read. So here we go. A wise son hears his father's instruction, but a scoffer does not listen to rebuke. From the food of his mouth a man eats what is good, but the desire of the treacherous is for violence. Whoever guards his mouth preserves his life. He who opens wide his lips comes to ruin. The soul of the sluggard craves and gets nothing, while the soul of the diligent is richly supplied. The righteous hates falsehood, but the wicked brings shame and disgrace. Righteousness guards him whose way is blameless, but sin overthrows the wicked. One pretends to be rich, yet has nothing. Another pretends to be poor, yet has great wealth. The ransom of a man's life is his wealth, but a poor man hears no threat. The light of the righteous rejoices, but the lamp of the wicked will be put out. By insolence comes nothing but strife, but those who take advice is wisdom. Wealth gained hastily will dwindle, but whoever gathers little by little will increase it. Hope deferred makes the heart sick, but a desire fulfilled is a tree of life. Whoever despises the word brings destruction on himself, but he who reveres the commandment will be rewarded. The teaching of the wise is a fountain of life, that one may turn away from the snares of death. Good sense wins favor, but the way of the treacherous is their ruin. Every prudent man acts with knowledge, but a fool flaunts his folly. A wicked messenger falls into trouble, but a faithful envoy brings healing. Poverty and disgrace come to him who ignores instruction, but whoever heeds reproof is honored. A desire fulfilled is sweet to the soul, but to turn away from evil is an abomination to fools. Whoever walks with the wise becomes wise, but the companion of fools will suffer harm. Disaster pursues sinners, but the righteous are rewarded with good. A good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children, but the sinner's wealth is laid up for the righteous. The fallow ground of the poor would yield much food, but it is swept away through injustice. Whoever spares the rod hates his son, but he who loves him is diligent to discipline him. The righteous has enough to satisfy his appetite, but the belly of the wicked suffers want. Let's see how you did. Can you point out any verses that had to deal with our heart's desire? Follow along and we'll go through some of them. So in verse 2, at the end, it says, the desire of the treacherous is for violence. This is the feeling in your heart of hatred, wanting bad things to happen to people. Not just natural disasters, not just physical violence, but you want them to be late to work. You want them to not have a good evaluation. You want them to spill their coffee on their favorite shirt. Those things, while they may not be specific physical violence, the Bible says in the New Testament that even hating someone in our heart is the same as murder. So the desire of the treacherous is for violence. Verse 4 says, the soul of the sluggard craves and gets nothing, while the soul of the diligent is richly supplied. The soul of the sluggard, a sluggard is someone who does not do anything. They're lazy, and they crave and they want the newest hot thing that's out there. Social media shows us anything and everything that's new. Things are trending and not trending quicker than you can say that sentence. And the soul of the sluggard just craves and craves and craves and gets nothing because they're not working towards anything. Where the soul of the diligent, the person who is working hard, the person who is faithful, the person who is putting in the effort, is richly supplied. Not necessarily with wealth financially, but the person who is richly supplied, meaning that they are getting their day's wages. They are getting their work done. They are diligent, and they're going to reap the rewards of that. In verse 12 says, hope deferred makes the heart sick, but a desire fulfilled is a tree of life. So when hope is put off and put off and put off, it makes your heart sick. It makes you sad. But when that desire is fulfilled, it brings forth a tree of life inside of you, that hope of something greater. And when it happens, you just have this instant joy seeing that desire fulfilled. It's like when you're in dating relationships and you hope for a future of a marriage, and when you finally find that relationship that results in that, it is a tree of life. When you are waiting to have children, which is a season that we're in right now, that hope deferred makes our heart sick. Sometimes that it is far off and we don't know God's timing. But when that desire is fulfilled, it will bring a tree of literal life, a human into the world. So this can apply to so many situations, but those are the ones that I can think of off the top of my head. Knowing that when those desires are fulfilled, it brings a tree of life for that future hope, something that we can hold on to. And we have a hope of a future with Jesus forever. Thankfully, he came down from heaven and sacrificed his own life, took the full wrath of God, so that we can have a hope of living in heaven forever, which is going to be way better than anything we can even possibly imagine. This world does not even come close to what we can imagine, and so that's very exciting. Verse 19 says, "A desire fulfilled is sweet to the soul," kind of relating back to the last verse. "But to turn away from evil is an abomination to fools," which is interesting because it talks about if you're foolish, turning away from evil is an abomination. Usually we use that word when God is talking about the things that are an abomination to him, things that he hates. And this says that fools hate turning away from evil. They're running towards evil, and we don't want to be foolish. The whole purpose of this is to talk about how can we get closer to God? How can we gain more wisdom? So we want to turn away from evil. If it's an abomination to fools and we don't want to be fools, we want to turn away from evil. And then verse 25 says, "The righteous has enough to satisfy his appetite, but the belly of the wicked suffers want." So this whole focus of this is talking about, what do we desire? What are the things that we want in our lives? Are they honoring to God? And then are we waiting on God for those things? Or are we trying to get ahead of God's timing and do it ourselves? Do we suffer want? Are we always wanting the next big thing? Or are we satisfied? Are we satisfied with what God has given us? Are we content? Not being a sluggard, not just waiting around and doing nothing from now on, but do we appreciate all that God has given us? Are we thankful for all that God has given us? Being righteous is given to us by God himself, by Jesus dying on the cross. We are considered righteous in the eyes of God. And so if that's who we are, if that's who God says that we are, then we should be satisfied in our appetite. So some questions I want you to ask yourself this week, and something that I want to ask myself this week, is, am I satisfied with what God has given me? What are some things that I desire or want right now? Are the things that I desire honoring to God? And if not, asking God to remove those desires and allow us to desire him above everything else. So those are my questions for you this week. Next week, we'll jump into Proverbs chapter 14, and we'll see you next week on Weekly Wisdom. Bye.